Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and let's see, it appears the world is still on fire, folks. We got a bit of news to get into today that I think is extremely important to break down for those of you, many of you guys are without work right now. You're looking for ways to sustain your life. You don't want handouts from the government, and you're sick of being called selfish for wanting to feed your family. And I'm going to go into a few articles today that relate to this issue. Make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already and help share on social media. It's the only way we can be seen anymore because we're insanely shadow banned to the point where it's infuriating. So please share this on social media, guys, and hit that like button and check the links below. Anyway, as this article says, out of Zero Hedge, worst jobs report in history. 20.5 million jobs lost as unemployment rate hits record 14.7%. And there's evidence that the unemployment rate is much worse than that as well, considering the labor force participation rate, which we've gone into many times here at WHAM. And as this article out of Zero Hedge says, 52% of small businesses expect to be out of business within 6 months. Shocking new survey. And as this article goes into, anyone that was hoping for a quick recovery for the U.S. economy can forget about that right now. Yes, many states are attempting to reopen, but in most cases it will be a multi-stage process that takes many months to complete. Meanwhile, fear of COVID-19 is going to keep many Americans from conducting business as usual even after all the restrictions have been finally lifted. Even now, many of the stores, restaurants, and movie theaters that have been reopened are seeing very, very few customers. Unfortunately, millions of small businesses are not going to be able to survive in such a depressed economic environment for very long. In America today, the rules of the game are slanted very heavily in favor of huge corporations and are slanted very, very heavily against small businesses. And what doesn't help in that case, my friends, is when small businesses are called non-essential. We're told that going to a family-owned grocery store can give you coronavirus, but it's okay to shove into a Walmart or shove into a Costco, or in many cases, McDonald's is fine. Everyone crowded into McDonald's to eat unhealthy food while, the organic restaurant down the street is shut down. Obviously, there is monopolization going on, and they don't want to let a crisis go to waste. And as this article says, companies are far more terrified than they were in 2008. As it says, after aggregating data from the first quarter conference calls, one thing appears to be clear. Companies are far more scared now than they were during the global financial crisis. Those were the findings of a new study by the Federal Reserve, which used a machine reading program to look through more than 600 earnings calls that took place last month during the middle of the ongoing global pandemic. According to the study, 42% of American non-financial companies are talking about reining in spending investments. 27% are discussing equity payouts, and 17% are talking about drawing down their lines of credit. This compares to 25%, 11%, and 7% for these figures, respectively, during the worst point of the 2008 recession, the paper states. We find that actions consistent with a financial concern spiked dramatically in April 2020. The share of firms drawing down on credit lines, cutting equity payouts, or cutting investment was 17%, 27%, and 42%, more than 6.5 standard deviations from their mean values of 2%, 5%, and 10%. For comparison, during the peak of the 2008-2009 financial crisis, these numbers peaked at 7, 11, and 25%. And you can see that chart there. Well, of course, businesses are concerned because they aren't able to make money. They're not able to create things. They're not able to employ people. They're in debt now. They're getting loans. I mean, this is peak debt. This is peak insanity, folks. And I've been saying for years that already it's hard enough for small businesses to get by. What we're witnessing today is the pile-on of just unbelievable amounts of kerosene on the fire. And still, we're told that we're selfish for wanting to see people be able to feed their families. And, you know, a lot of people are mad about this, and they go into the streets and they demand openings because obviously there's a lot of lies that factor in here, and we'll get into that in a moment with new studies, etc. But there's a lot of lies that play into this, and people feel victimized because they were told 3.5 to 7% death toll rate, and now it's 0.08% to 0.2%. I mean, if people knew that to begin with, would they all have shut down? Don't forget 1957's pandemic. We'll go into all that more in a moment. But first, as this Fast Company article says, this isn't just US, this is Britain, this is all over the world. Companies filing for bankruptcy, a new normal in the age of coronavirus. 500,000 small businesses in financial distress, as smallbusiness.co.uk says. 1 in 4 businesses in Britain has already shut its doors, according to latest Office for National Statistics survey. As it says, 500,000 small businesses were in significant financial distress in the first of 3 months of the year, according to Bagby's Traynor. And this could be the tip of the iceberg for the second quarter as a coronavirus lockdown comes in effect, cratering the UK economy and pushing small businesses into closing their doors. And it shows in a survey of 5,316 businesses, the statistics agency found that 25% had closed between March 23rd and April 5th. Imagine how many have closed since then, my friends. As I go on to this next article out of the same website, it says, state could take equity in small businesses, suggests Lloyd's chairman. Lord Blackwell, chairman of Lloyd's, says governments could convert bad coronavirus emergency loan debt into equity, giving its stake in thousands of small businesses. Oh, well, wouldn't that be so unbelievably convenient, my friends? The government, I mean, we've talked long about how they create a fascio-communist state. You know, fascism is government control of corporations, and communism is government is a corporation. In this case, we have a little bit of both, and they basically run, I mean, they take stakes in the company, the government, taxpayers. That's not how this will recover. More of what kills the businesses won't solve the problem. That's what they call the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. Repeat in a circle for eternity. It's perpetual. It's dangerous. It does not work. Keynesian economics doesn't work. Marxism doesn't work. Go back, read your history books, my friends. I know many of you have. This is so unbelievably destructive. And if you have seen our recent videos in Mexico, interviewing Mexicans on the streets at protests, at anti-lockdown protests, which, by the way, is illegal, or not illegal, sorry, against the terms of service. Sorry, YouTube's so tied up in government these days, it's hard to say, but it's against the terms of service and community guidelines to report on that here on YouTube, so the video could just be taken down at any moment, just like our recent interview with Ron Paul was restricted from being seen by the vast majority of people. So if you haven't seen our interview with Ron Paul from the other day yet, make sure to look at that on our channel. You have to go to our videos because they don't show it on our profile. Anyway, it's just unbelievable censorship. But the point is, we interviewed Mexicans on the ground at anti-lockdown protests, and they were saying we're sick of being told, barely anyone died here, and we can't eat. We can't feed our family. Many people will die from the hunger. Many people will die from, you know, the lack of funds, unable to pay rent, unable to pay bills. Many more people will die from that than the virus, and we know that now. And yet, when people go out and protest, they're called Trumpsters and right-wing white supremacist Nazis by magazines like Vice. This is how they treat people like you. I was attacked in the Puerto Vallarta media yesterday as a white provocateur trying to cause an uprising in Mexico. Meanwhile, almost every Mexican here is against the lockdowns, and the media still toes the line of the government. And it's the same thing everywhere in the world. Mainstream media trying to tell people what to think and call anyone else some kind of denier or provocateur or whatever. The media is provoking an uprising, if anything. So, again, we have people all over the world that need food, that need to be able to feed their family, and they're called selfish. And the government comes in and says, oh, an opportunity. Let's see, more opportunism out of a crisis. As this says, UK launches new bounce back loans to help small businesses amid COVID-19 outbreak. Guys, loans, not a good move at all. You move into loans, you get a bunch of loans from the government, it props you up for a little while, you have to pay that back after, and it could take 10 to 15 years for the economy to fully recover. If it even does in the same light, we're probably looking at a new guard system possibly. Hopefully it's on our side of the free market, not on the side of government-controlled technocracy, Chinese-style, social credit and that kind of stuff. But the loans just mean you owe a debt, and that debt is to the state, and that state paid you by printing currency, and that printed currency causes inflation to rise and the price of living to go up and the value of your currency to go down. This is why people are getting into Bitcoin and things like that, and gold and silver. It's just not a good move, guys, and it's a perpetuation of a problem. They want you to go to government to solve the problem that the government created in the first place. That is a perfect plan for the state. They benefit the most from that. And I know many of you know this. I'm not trying to... I realize most people watching this know this. But we need to educate more people. We need to share these videos around on social media so people actually understand this, so they stop calling for the same things that doom us to begin with. And it's so sad to watch. So many people are victims of this. And obviously, the economic mayhem is killing way more people than the virus. And COVID-19 wreaks economic havoc across Europe. The European Commission has released its spring 2020 economic forecast, which shows that COVID-19 is wreaking havoc on Europe's economy. The collective GDP of the EU 27 was expected to grow 1.2% this year, but it is now forecast to contract 7.4% due to the pandemic. By contrast, Statista's Niall McCarthy notes that the financial crisis only led to a contraction of 4.5% for the EU 28 back in 2009. Of course, this is the biggest global depression in history. This is far worse than any economic mayhem we've seen previously, by far. And you can see Greece at the top there, and that's what I want to get into most here, is Greece spent 10 years thinking that things couldn't get any worse than the coronavirus hit. Talk about an absolutely horrible time in Greece's history, and they are trying to recover the best they can. They're opening for international tourism, they say, on July 1st. So is a country of Georgia. I've been looking into every country in the world and which ones are open, which ones are closed. I've never seen more evidence of a prison planet than I have today. Every single place in the world, other than Iran, was almost completely closed. But right now, they're talking about opening up because they're incredibly dependent on tourism. They have way more dependency on tourism than most countries in the world. And again, this is destroying people's ability to feed their family, and that becomes a starvation crisis, and a starvation crisis becomes a health crisis, and a health crisis becomes another economic crisis. And it's just so horrible to watch. It's just so horrible to watch take place, and I wish more people listened to us to begin with, but here we are, and we're in the worst global crisis in economic history, and we'll be talking about this many years from now. And you have to wonder how people will react when they realize this was all a lie. We talked with Dr. Ron Paul about this recently, and here, as you could see in the Zero Hedge article, leading German virologist, COVID-19 less deadly than we thought. German scientist Professor Hendrik Streeck has been studying groups of subjects in his country and has reached a number of compelling findings regarding the viral behavior of the new coronavirus. Streeck also explains why he thinks that draconian lockdown measures were decided in haste and may ultimately be deemed to have been completely unnecessary. I do want to also note that even Bill Gates, like a month ago, said that the lockdowns will kill more people than the virus, especially with suicides, drug abuse, economic mayhem, alcoholism, domestic violence is skyrocketing, pedophilia is skyrocketing. It's a horrible thing. And he says all these things are happening, but we still need to lock down. And the virus didn't kill as many people as he thought, but we still need to lock down. And it just says everything you need to know about these people that are trying to take over the world. I'm sorry, that's what they're doing. It isn't a conspiracy theory. Bill Gates had all these litigation fraud charges, and the U.S. government sued him in the 90s, and he was forced to create this charity, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and suddenly had a come to Jesus moment, and allegedly, according to him, and that he just suddenly become a great guy that helps people. He was using a charity, like Warren Buffett does, like many people do, to cover his own butt. against you know, the U.S. government's crackdown on him, and so he. He funds a World Health Organization. The World Health Organization is headed by Tedros. Tedros was one of the heads of the Ethiopian Communist Party, and they work hand in hand with the Chinese government that wants social credit, technocracy, cashless society, and murders people. And there's lots of evidence that they were burning people alive who were sick just a couple months ago. Not even with coronavirus. They were just like, well, they are sick. They might have coronavirus. Burn them. It's so horrible. And people are like, well, Bill Gates is such a nice guy. How dare you say anything about him? And saying things about him, since YouTube says we are following the advice of the World Health Organization, and those that go against the World Health Organization will get their videos taken down, they'll get demonetized, they'll get shadow banned, or they'll just get deleted, as we've seen time and time again we've seen our videos taken down, we've seen many of our friends' videos taken down, we've been completely demonetized for the most part, and it comes down to you guys to help us keep up in this war on information. Because this is just insane what's happening. And we're called the conspiracy theorists? What about the people that say staying inside and destroying any possibility for herd immunity? Dr. Fauci literally said the other day he doesn't want herd immunity in his press conference. Literally destroying the ability for this pandemic to end, assuming there is even a pandemic, and it isn't just all BS. And it's clearly a bioweapon. US-funded Wuhan lab, $3.7 million plus another $3-something million funded by through an organization that Fauci ran at the Wuhan lab to do studies on the coronavirus in bats that are 96% similar to the novel coronavirus. Duh. I mean, come on. And then there's the 4 Dietrich cases. Guys, this is the most orchestrated false flag in history. This isn't, they're not flying the false flag of an enemy, they're flying the flag of the coronavirus. This is the biggest false flag in the history of the world. And it's not a conspiracy theory, it's all out there for you to see, up in our faces, and anyone talks about it, they get censored and shut down. My God, we need to come together now more than ever. Find us on float.app, flote.app. Join us there. We need you on the alternatives. It's now or never. We have come to an end game, folks. This is the end game. 100%. I am not grilling you. I'm not attacking you. I just want to reach people here, guys. We need to counter the false information. This is our deadline. We have reached a time where it's now or never, because this is heated up and it could either go into full, unbelievable, unthinkable, technocratic tyranny, or it could go in our direction of freedom and individualism and voluntarism and peace. It comes down to us acting now. So share this video around, hit the like button, check those links below, join our new newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Find us on float.app, that's really important. BitChute, we're on there. It's hard to upload videos there. It processes sometimes for 6 days. It's terrible, but we're working on that. And find our CoinTree account below as well. Many ways that you can help support independent media. This is crazy, guys, and we need to keep our guard up, defend ourselves. Don't obey tyranny. For the sake of you, and not just you, but your family, your loved ones, your children, your grandchildren. It's more important than ever, because this is going to be so destructive if we keep on this path. And they're talking about second wave. Oh, God. Stay with us, folks. Keep tuning in. Hit that notification bell. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And just keep coming back to see when we post, because otherwise we can't reach you guys, most of you. Check out our Ron Paul interview, our Cynthia McKinney interview, our interviews on the streets in Mexico, vlog series coming up on Mexico. We appreciate anything you can do. Anyways, until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribe Star. We really can't do it without you. We've been so insanely shadow banned, about 90% at this point, and 95% demonetized. As Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, comes in and says that she is shutting down quote-unquote controversial content and cutting out the views on this controversial content by 70%. She's been bragging about it. We need your help more than ever in this battle for truth in information. You guys are what keeps us alive, so we really appreciate just even $1 a month makes a huge difference. If everyone could give just $1 a month, we wouldn't even have to worry about competing against the mainstream propaganda networks. You can also donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen for you to scan if you please, as well as in the comments and description. Liking and sharing makes a big difference as well, and finding us on alternative social media platforms like float.app, that's flote.app, makes a huge difference. We're at Josh Sigurdson as well as at Wham. Float is replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging, and of course monetization on videos for creators, live streams with super chats in crypto, and most of all, no algorithm, because at the end of the day, it's all about reach, guys. This is all about actually reaching people with the message and waking up the public. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Minds, BitChute, all sorts of different platforms. Try to follow us on as many things as possible, because very soon this channel will very likely just be completely deleted from YouTube, and you'll never see us again, and you'll be stuck with only the mainstream networks. Also, come on out and see us at Anarcho Vegas 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada in July, where such speakers such as G. Edward Griffin and many others will be speaking. You could use promo code WHAM on your VIP tickets and save 10%, as well as buy extremely cheap tickets for just $20.20. You won't find a cheaper conference than this with such amazing names. Check anarchovegas.com for more information on that. We hope to see you out there. And anyway, I really appreciate all of you guys joining us. You make it possible for us to survive in this volatile, propagandized climate. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.
Bye.